Hello and welcome to another episode of The Molten Truth. I'm your host, Zoe Michaels. We have with us today a publisher, an editor, an author, and we're thrilled to have him. I'm probably going to butcher your last name because I am notoriously bad with that. So rather than me butchering it, I'm going to actually have you introduce yourself with your name and save me the embarrassment.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. My name is Isaac Shokrian, and I'm the publisher and editor of The Thieving Magpie, and I'm the author of a novel called American Playground.
Very cool. Well, we're just thrilled to have you here. You know, I love talking with fellow authors, and you're more than a fellow author. I mean, my goodness, the fact that you took on the idea of let's publish this quarterly magazine and let's publish this book. I mean, wow.
Yes.
The ambition level and the determination. I'm in awe.
Oh, thank you. Out of necessity comes these kind of entrepreneurial projects for everybody, I'm sure. It's hard to get into print, whether it's digital or otherwise. It's as you know, being a writer, and I've been writing since I was 17. It's not easy to get your short stories or your poems published in magazines, and it's gotten harder and harder, I've noticed, since my days in the 80s when I was a young writer. A lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of gatekeepers, a lot of, relationships that not everybody has. And so I thought that it was time to kind of take the bull by the horns and start my own publication and be the guy who accepts people, accepts writers and their work and makes them happy instead of always being the one who gets rejected and feeling down about it.
That is so wonderful. And just on behalf of all those writers, thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
So you've been writing since you were 17.
Yes.
I've already forgotten the name of your book, and I apologize to my audience. I work full time, and so I am literally off of my job and into my fun part of my day, and the mind is basically gone.
I hear you. The name of the book is American Playground.
Playground. I was going to say Playhouse. I'm like, no, that's not right. The American Playground, where I would like to be if I was about 30 plus years younger. Okay.
Yes.
So I guess, first of all, this is the first book you've ever published, yes or no?
This is the first novel I've published. I have had some short stories and some poems published in the past in literary magazines, okay. But this is the first full-length novel that I wrote and published, yes.
So what motivated you? Like, what inspired the American Playground and motivated you to go from just those short pieces to let's write this novel?
The motivation was to get as many of my words and stories out into the public in the best way possible. And I had written a collection of short stories. I had about 10 or 11 short stories that I had worked on over the years. A couple of them have been published, and a lot of them had been rejected from a ton of magazines. I spoke with an editor who asked him for advice on how I can get my short story collection published. And he suggested that I write a novel because debut writers don't usually get short story collections published. They usually get debut novels published. So this collection of short stories that I had written, about 3 of them were contained similar characters and a common background. And so I took those 3 stories and I built a novel around those stories. And it was a lot of fun, actually, because I learned that I had a lot more to say in each of those stories, and they were a lot more connected than I thought they were. And so it became its own entity. The novel became its own story, and it was a lot of fun writing it. So I'm glad I did it.
And so this title, The American Playground, I mean, first of all, what a great, fun title. But what's its connection to the story, if I can ask? Like, what?
Sure.
I don't know how else to ask that, so I'm going to let you answer.
Well, the story is a fictionalized version of my own experience of when my family and I moved from Iran to United States, and that happened in the early '70s. And so I made this story about this family that moves from Tehran to LA in 1971. And it's all seen through the perspective of the 7-year-old protagonist. Um, and he basically learns how to become an American. He learns how to learn the language. He learns the language. He learns the culture. He learns the slang. He learns the cool songs and the cool radio stations to listen to and the cool TV shows. And through radio and television and just keeping his eyes and ears open, he becomes an American. And he learns a lot of tough lessons along the way. He gets mistreated and miscast and mischaracterized and all those things that everybody goes through. And all of that happens on the playground. And so I thought that it's a good metaphor and it's a good, microcosm of what it's like to be an immigrant in America, because, you have to learn the language, but you have to learn so much more. You have to learn the culture. You have to learn the rules and the unwritten rules. You have to learn the hierarchies, and all of those things exist on a playground even today. So I thought that it was a good, metaphor for what it's like to become American on the American playground.
Absolutely. I love that because it works on multiple levels. Just like so much of the English language, just one word could mean so many different things, depending
Yes.
on the context, the tone of voice. So yeah, that is spot on, and I love that you got that working for you with this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, talk to us more about your history and maybe some of the things that you do that led to this love of writing and to to this love of to the point of publishing and maybe some of your goals of the future. Let's just go down that path.
Sure. Well, when you arrive in the United States as an immigrant, it's actually very difficult to pinpoint yourself and figure out who you are and where you belong in this big, when you're a 7-year-old kid coming from Iran. America is a really big, beautiful place that you want to be a part of any way that you can. But it's also not the most welcoming place, for kids, because kids can be mean. And so a lot of it did kind of shape me about, trying to find out who I am and where I belong and how I fit in. And it creates a very introspective point of view for a kid. And I think that just made me a very introspective person. And when I graduated from high school, I was pretty good at English, but I was a math major. And but when I started UCLA my freshman year, I quickly turned to English and writing. Somebody just told me about journalism and about keeping a journal. I started doing that, and it really just it became so obvious that that's what I was destined for. And so I studied writing, creative writing at UCLA. And when I graduated, I went to grad school for creative writing in San Francisco State. And that's what I did for many years. I was a writer, and I was something else to support my writing. I was a waiter or a cook or whatever jobs that I had well into my late 20s. By the time I hit 30, I hadn't really been published to a great extent. I had been rejected way more than I'd been accepted anywhere. I wasn't making any money as a writer. And so I really thought I had to figure out a way to get better income than my hourly wage at the restaurants that I worked at. So I rolled the dice. I applied to law school. I got in to a pretty good one. And so, yeah. And so, at the age of 31, I started school at Tulane Law. And by the age of 34, I was a lawyer. And then I sort of started a second life, even though I thought that I was going to be writing a majority of the time and practicing law on the side. It doesn't really work like that because
No.
practicing law is really tough.
Yeah, 90-hour weeks and all that.
Exactly. And, and then, a lot of things that happened to everybody happened to me as well. Yeah, I fell in love and I got married and I started a family, and all of those things kept pushing the writing to the side until it kind of all came to a head at some point. And I had a lot of long discussions with my wife, and, I figured out a way with her help to like change my scheduling around and to change my, priorities around and, get back to writing. So I did. And that's when it really started to work for me, when I started to really dedicate, 3 hours a day every morning, come rain, come shine, come sickness, come health, whatever, to do the writing thing. And it made a big difference, and I could still practice law and I could still do my writing. I just had to organize my timing better. And I did. And it was very helpful. So that's where we are.
Really excellent. Well, first of all, let me say how wonderful that your wife is supportive like that, because not
Yes.
that. So how wonderful that you picked the right partner in your life that would be supportive of your goals.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. I mean, if you are, it's hard enough to be a writer. It's hard enough to be an artist of any kind, and to dedicate time to it and still make a living, either as a writer, as an artist, or something else. It's hard enough doing that without the support. But when you have a partner who is on the same page and is willing to, help out, that's the boost that kind of puts you where you can get to those dreams. You can achieve those dreams a lot easier with that help.
Absolutely.
So I am lucky.
Absolutely. So I have to say, I really was not expecting that twist that you would become a lawyer. I was expecting he went to, to grad school, he went to college, he went down the journalism path, so therefore he, became an editor, or he became this or that. Did not see that sharp turn to going into law work.
Yes. I don't think anybody saw it coming. In my family, they all thought I was the crazy writer, crazy artist guy who was always had flaky jobs and who was always changing jobs and changing addresses. And I was that. And I loved that part of my life. I still do. But there was a part of me that needed a steady income, I guess.
Yeah.
And so,
and my family always said, earn the most you can in the shortest amount of time. So
yes.
That's probably that thought process. Well, law work, high pay, seems logical, except for the 90-hour work.
You have to be able to see into the future a little bit and invest, I guess. And I just thought, okay, I could probably invest 3 years, go to law school, get that under my belt. It's a job that you can get anywhere. I mean, I was a cook before that, and I felt very confident that as a cook, I can get a job anywhere in this country or in the world for a good hourly wage, because I know how to do it, and I had done it for many years. But being a lawyer was just a little bit more. I could earn more, I guess. And of course, it taught me a lot of things. Going to law school taught me a lot of things that I hadn't learned up until then. Seeing things differently, thinking about things differently, but also organizing and being responsible for, yourself and whatever cases you're working on and your time. All big in the world of an artist. You got to be able to manage all those things.
Well, and depending on what type of law you were practicing, also the people you interacted with, certainly, you meet such a variety of people and their background and their stories. And of course, there's the confidentiality thing, but that doesn't mean it can't be inspiration for a fictional character with
absolutely
similar circumstances.
A lot of interesting people in the law world, for sure.
I don't doubt it. It's funny, but just in this past year, since I started interviewing different authors, I have met a number of people who either are lawyers or were lawyers. And I think that's interesting because you don't necessarily equate law with creativity. But sometimes I think we as people, we're going after that paycheck, and sometimes we need that creative outlet to let us breathe, to give us
Yeah.
that okay, I can be a human again kind of feeling. So
Yeah.
maybe there's a little bit
No,
of that.
I think what was fascinating to me was that when I decided to go to law school, I definitely felt like I had failed as an artist, and it wasn't like I wanted to go to law school or I was dreaming of it. I really did it to save myself from a life of poverty,
Yeah.
you know. But when I got to law school, it was fascinating to see so many people just like me there, musicians, painters, writers, the most creative people, all of them, who had, for one reason or another, decided to go to law school, but they considered themselves to be artists. So law school wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It is a creative place, and a lot of creative people go there. And at the end of the day, law is very much like writing. It involves creative thinking and persuasion and some drama. So it's not that far removed from being a writer. And it was great to see that. It was great to go into law school and think, oh my God, look, there's people that I can play music with, which I did. There's people that I became the editor of the school newspaper, the law school newspaper, and recruited other people to submit their work and to work with me on that project. So it was an eye opening for me. And now, 30 years or 25 years later, as an editor of the magazine, I get so many submissions from lawyers and judges, judges that I'd actually appeared in front of in court, who didn't know that I was an editor or a publisher. They just submitted randomly. And so that creative outlet for professionals, that creative yearning for professionals, I think is there. I think everybody has creativity in them.
True.
They just don't have a platform necessarily, or they don't tap into it as much. But I get wonderful stories from doctors, big,
Yeah.
surgeons, and heavy people who are doing heavy work in other industries, but they have this thing where they want to write something, or some of them are photographers. So we all have it. We all have that creative energy in us. It just depends on how much we want to explore it or tap into it, and also if we want to get it out into the public. And
True.
so I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see through this magazine that there are so many people who have day jobs, but who have very vibrant night jobs too, as poets and writers and artists.
Right. Yeah, it's. I guess it's at the time we're living in. Earlier this year, I was focused on speaking more with musicians for a little bit.
Oh,
And so some of the conversations centered around how, even as recently as the 1980s, a music artist could still make a living as a music artist and that be all that they did, even if it was like gigs and so on,
yeah,
without being famous,
yeah,
But as we've gotten further in time, that's not really the case. It's really more about feeding their soul than lining their pocket, or
yeah,
being able to make a living. Some of the artists that I speak to these days, their primary job might be real estate because it gave them the flexibility to still go out on the road and do the gigs that feed their soul. But to put food on the table, a roof over their head, they still had to have that day job. In that case, it was real estate. And it's
yeah.
just really sad that it's gotten to that point where you can't make a living doing something you truly love, but at least we still have it as an option
Yeah.
after hours.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I was reading these articles after Norman Lear passed away. And the same article showed up after Carl Reiner passed away. And these guys are people that I grew up with, watching TV as much as I did. But they were from that post-World War II generation. And it's funny because the government programs in those days really did help to fund these budding artists. They had programs for writers, they had programs for painters, they had programs for musicians that you can tap into that, and you can either get the education that you need, or the platform that you need, or at least a little bit of a stipend where you can go and pursue that. And then you look back a couple of hundred years before that, and you have like Mozart or those classical musicians of that era who had patrons.
Yes.
Who were like the kings or the dukes or whoever were running those things. They would give these musicians room and board, so that they can create something, or they would commission the works, things of that nature.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that anymore, and so we are now in this position where we have to be our own patrons, or we have to be our own government program for ourselves.
It's so true.
And so now we all have day jobs. I mean, again, I see it. I see very talented people who probably would rather not, have a day job. But here we are. We are in this place where the government programs don't exist anymore to help, post-World War II style Americans. And there's no, king of Austria who's going to give you anything. You just got to figure it out for yourself. And I mean, I wish it was different, but then again, this is our era, this is the era that we are living in. And so art never shuts up, no matter what. So it's always coming up somewhere. It sprouts like a weed, and we're the weeds. So
if you're gonna be a weed, be a dandelion. At least be a pretty weed.
Very good. Yes.
There's other pretty weeds, I'm sure, but that's the first one that comes to my mind, and it's useful. Side squirrels. So I'm thinking that time spent in journalism class, and also the time spent as a lawyer, probably really honed your skills. And really prepared you to be an editor.
The thing that helped me the most, honestly, I think, was that when I was 17 and I was about to enter UCLA as a math major, some friend of my dad's, in a very random conversation that we were having, suggested that I keep a journal because I wanted to be a journalist, a reporter. And he said, you should keep a journal and just write your thoughts down in it. It never occurred to me to do that. It was never something that I ever would have thought of on my own. But I did go the next day to the UCLA student store, and I bought myself one of those, notebooks, and I started writing stuff down, and I would be really precise about it. I would put the date and the time and the place that I was writing from and all that stuff. And honestly, that little, I don't know what you call it, routine that I started at the age of 17 is the thing that really helped me more than anything else. Not only because it was therapeutic, but I assumed, and I still do, that nobody's going to read that stuff. It's just for me. And so you just let yourself write anything you want. And at some point you do get focused. You do get more clear about your thoughts and about your sentence formation and things of that nature. And so that helped me a lot. That created in me this person who can put a thought together from beginning to end and support it if I need to. That helped me in law school more than the other way around. I mean, law school does help you to focus and to hone in on arguments. But if I didn't have those writing skills to begin with, I don't know if I would have survived law school. That was my skill that I had. Other people came in with other skills, of course. But I think mine was that. Mine was the ability to write. and that was just from the journals.
So that sounds like a piece of advice for any teacher out there that wants their students to have a really successful life, that, encourage journaling.
Absolutely. I mean, it helps your mind and it helps your hand, your skills of writing sentences. So it's definitely something that is helpful for anybody, whether they're an artist or not.
So at what point did you decide to go from writer to opening a magazine, a quarterly magazine? How recent is that?
Sorry about that. Okay. There's somebody at my door. That's why I was just having my wife go and get the door. At what point? Well, here's the thing. There was a time about 30 years ago where I thought I was going to start this thing. I didn't know what it was. I just liked the name, the Thieving Magpie. And I thought, I'm going to do something called the Thieving Magpie. And I don't know what it was. I didn't know if it was going to be a bookstore, or if it was going to be a magazine, or if it was going to be, a collective of poets, whatever. But I never did anything with it back in those days. Then about 8 years ago, as I was just starting to, really turn it up with the writing and with the, finishing stories and getting everything, taking the writing a lot more seriously to that next level, I thought the Thieving Magpie is gonna come back now, and also technology had a lot to do with it, because I thought, okay, well, I don't have the money to be an in-print magazine, but I do have the ability to start a website and to make it into a magazine on screen, and have whatever I need. They have a space for the poets, have the space for the fiction writers, have the space for the essayists. It can be done now. I mean, I don't think it could have been done 20 years ago even. But 10 years ago, yes. I mean, the technology is exponentially advancing. So that's when I thought, okay, the Thieving Magpie can be a real thing now. It could be like a real, legitimate platform. And so, I hooked up with this hungry artist who was a very talented guy. And we met a few times and talked about what I want to do for the magazine, because I wanted him to create the logo, which he did. And I love the logo. I think it's fantastic. And it really captures everything that I want in a logo or in an emblem for a magazine. And then it was just putting it out there. Going to Poets and Writers magazine and going to all these different places and signing up, which is free, to, just say, the Thieving Magpie is now open to submissions, and, we take poets and writers and, everything like that. And I didn't know how it was going to start. I didn't know what it was going to turn into. It was really a step-by-step thing. I want to make this platform. Okay. I want to have this logo. Okay. I want to be able to receive submissions. It was all step by step. And the first couple of issues, I didn't get a lot of submissions. And I was able to, get some friends to write stuff and write some of my own stuff just to fill it up. But by the third or fourth one, and I really don't know how, because I'm not a marketing expert, and I didn't really figure out how to get it out there as much as I should have, but it got out there. And so the submissions started coming in, and really from all over the world, which was fantastic. There were Australia and Asia and Europe and other parts of America that I wouldn't have thought, would have access or know about it. And so now I get over 100 submissions for each issue. So over 400 submissions a year that I sift through and, accept, reject, do that whole thing. Reject with some kindness, reject with some encouragement. And so it's still evolving. I mean, it started in 2017, and so we're like 8 years in. It's still evolving, but at some point I'd like to take it to whatever the next level is, and I don't know what that is exactly. I should be able to submit some of these writers for awards for the Pushcart Prize or different awards that are out there. I haven't figured that part out yet, but
You will.
I hope so. I mean, I'd like to. And then, of course, I published my novel, the first print of anything, that the Thieving Magpie has published, with this idea that I want to get other writers who are interested to have us publish it for them, even though I haven't figured out that part either. I mean, I funded my publishing, and it was just my baby, so I did it. But at some point, it has to sustain itself and pay for its other writers and things like that. So that part I'm still learning about, but I'm eager to take it to where it should go.
Absolutely. And that's the important thing is, it's one thing to have a goal. It's another thing to actually put it into action, to,
Yes.
figure it out as you go along, baby steps, maybe using yourself as like, okay, this is how I think it should work, so that you figured out the pathway, so that when it is time to include others, you've already been down that stretch of road.
Yes. Because I didn't know. So there was so much that I didn't know. And I probably should have written it all down, like a step-by-step thing. Like you get the ISBNs, and you have to work with the interior guys, and you have to work with the graphic artists for the covers, and all that stuff. It's stuff that a reader might take for granted, and a writer doesn't even have to think about. But a publisher has to think about all of that stuff.
Right.
Hiring an editor, or hiring what kind of lettering and fonts do you want for the pages, what weight of paper do you want to use, fun stuff, by the way. All that stuff is a lot of fun and informative.
Yeah.
But when you have a side job or a day job, it just makes it that much more difficult to take all that stuff in and make a routine out of it, so that you can do it the next time.
Absolutely. And as someone who's taken the path of trying to do it herself, doing things the hard way,
yes,
there's a lot of quote unquote publishers out there. And believe me, I hired one or two of them, and maybe they simply weren't clear about what the service they provide, or maybe something else. I won't even venture to speculate about what their motives were. But as good as to have a book out there in hard print or digitally, it means nothing if it sits on a shelf and no one ever sees it. So the publicist side of things, to me as a writer, is a very key point. If my publisher is not telling me, hey, get out there on a podcast and be interviewed, if I'm the one coming up with that idea and they're not, something's wrong here. You should know more about this path than I do.
Yeah. And I think what you just said about the publishers, you can also say about the publicists and marketing people, because not all of them are, and editors for that matter, not everybody are or is who they claim to be, and they don't provide the services that they claim to provide. And here's the heartbreaking part of it for me, is that aspiring artists are such easy targets.
Yep.
Because we are so passionate about our work, and we are so passionate about wanting to find an audience and to get our work out there, that it's very easy to exploit and say, yeah, I'm gonna edit this so that you're gonna win a Pulitzer Prize, or I'm gonna publish this so that it's gonna be a bestseller, or whatever promises that are easily made and then very easily confused later on, like, oh wait, no, I didn't say I was going to do this, or I didn't, or just they disappear. So it's and I've seen those. I know what you're talking about. I know that some publishers have you put up all the money up front, and I don't think they're even allowed to be called publishers, actually, because when I was doing the whole thing with the Thieving Magpie for this book, you do have to jump through some hoops, and you do have to, make certain promises or certain prove certain things about where your funding is coming from and how you're going to publish other authors and artists besides yourself. And so that's another educational thing that happened to me, to learn about hybrid publishers and vanity publishers and all those outfits that are all out there,
They are.
Again,
And
you're an
sometimes
artist.
hard to distinguish one from another. You have to really,
Absolutely.
sometimes you have to be knee deep in it before you figure out,
Yeah.
this was not the right fit.
Yeah. It's a hard road. I mean, I think what we were talking about before, it's harder than ever for an artist to be a successful working artist. And it doesn't look like it's getting any easier. On one hand, it's definitely, the technology is now available for you to get your stuff done and get it out into the world.
True.
The hard part is what you just said, which is getting it noticed and getting it off the shelves and into people's hands, and on a frequent level, so that you could really feel it, that, hey, I'm having an impact, or somebody wrote to me and said they read my book and they really liked it, something like that.
Right.
It's hard.
Well, and even the timeline, because, I started publishing my books a little over a year ago. I'm coming up on my like a 2-year anniversary of when I started the ball rolling officially. And I did things the hardest possible way the year one, trying to do it all myself, thinking I could simply upload a book to Amazon and it would find its way to everyone.
Well, they do kind of make it seem like that, don't they?
I was naive as possible. But yeah, that's how it looks.
Yeah.
Only a little over a year later, after speaking with a very highly recommended publicist, and this was after I spoke to many, many writers, and who many of them had won awards, so I'm like, okay, you guys know what you're doing. What's going on? So after speaking with the publicist, he's like, no, you don't simply put your book out there. There's this process you want to do many months in advance, laying groundwork. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you for that education. I am glad I hired you.
Yeah, it is a whole. It is. I mean, if you're following the path of a big publishing house, they have like 12-month windows of, from the time they accept your book to the time they actually get all the galleys done to the time they want to put it out there. They're like 3 seasons ahead.
Even self-publishing, though, there's still a timeline. It's not as long as that, but there's still, you don't simply just send your book. There's a timeline. So these are things to know.
Yeah, and it's the stuff that we find out the hard way. We're all finding this stuff out the hard way.
We're so eager to get our work out there.
Yeah, I was, for sure. I mean, I was definitely not following that timeline. I was aware of it, and I was like, I can't wait. And I just passed 60, so I was like, I'm not really inclined to look for another agent or to find another a big house publisher or to do that timeline thing. I'm gonna try to get it out there. I know it's a good book. I know it's funny, and I know that it's heartwarming, and I know that it's heartbreaking, and it's a good book. So I just thought, I'm gonna just have to figure out a way to get it in front of people. If it takes going to bookstores and doing whatever I need to do, I'll do it. But I don't think I had the patience to do what you're talking about, which is actually what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go out there and try to I don't know, go to conferences and go to talk.
I hear you. Yeah, and that was my mistake too. So now that my publicist has reined me in, my future books will be done the right way. But as of this moment, I've got 4 or 5 books out there that gung ho, jump in, feet first, and when your next book hits, that's when they'll buy your past catalog. So your books are there waiting. That's the good part, that your books are out there now. True. True. I think there is something to be said for having a body of work to, maybe that's the first time they hear of you, but hey, look, she's got 4 or 5 books out already. So she's been around a little bit.
Exactly.
So glass half full.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes one hit, you get one big hit, and people do get interested in your other works as well. That's what that's what I as a reader, if I discover a writer, and I like their work, I definitely go back and see what they wrote before, what they've written since. I follow, because writers have a voice, and just like a band that you like, you hear one song and you might buy one album, and then you're going to look and see what else they have and what else they had. And so that's how it happens. Your first 3 albums might not sell at all. Your 4th one sells big, and then all of a sudden your first 3 start to sell too.
Yeah,
So
it's true. I am someone who has always been a bookworm. I love to read, and I love music. But you're exactly right. I've fallen in love with certain authors' work, and you're right. I went back and I'm like, well, what else have you written? So you're exactly right.
Yeah. It's the voice that you fall for, and so if they have other books, they still have that voice, and that's what you want.
So true. So our time is going by very quickly, which is to me a good sign of a really great conversation. Before our time gets over us, I do have the random question from my last guest.
Yes.
So their question to you is, if you were writing your life story and you had to print it tomorrow, what would you title your life story?
Oh. Okay. Wow. There are so many cliche titles I can come up with right now.
You think of the best one about 2 a.m.?
Yeah. What would I title my life story? I guess the title would be I'm Still Doing It. That would be the life story.
Original. I like it.
Yeah, and I think it's accurate, and it's something that reflects what I've done and what I'm doing, and it's an active title, because I am still doing it, and that's what I like about that title, is that it's active and it's going forward, and I think that makes it.
I like it, and I can picture a sequel not finished yet.
That's good. Yes.
If only it was just as easy to write as it is to come up with titles.
Yes. Titles are fun.
Yes, they are. Oh my goodness. Okay, so do you have a question for our next guest?
Okay. Does it have to be about literary stuff? Can it be any
Not
question
at all.
at all?
I have had random questions like, would you ever get a tattoo? Have you ever dyed your... I mean, as random as you want.
Okay, so I think my question is, if you could be any organism on the planet other than a human, what would it be and why?
That's interesting that you're choosing organism, because that could literally be, do you want to be a amoeba?
Tree. Do you want to be a tree? Because trees can be fun, and also the birds in the trees can be fun. So
that's definitely an interesting question. Okay, so any advice or last thoughts you'd like to share with our guests?
Well, I think if I have advice or last thoughts, it's that not that I've achieved anything, I don't claim to, but the pursuit of your goals, the pursuit of your real, true passions are always worth it. You can't give up on them, and expect to go through a lot of crap before you get anywhere near them. But the process is the reward, and sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because I failed to ask this at the beginning, and I don't want to leave us without getting it before we shut down the recording. What is your website?
Yes. The website for the Thieving Magpie is www.thievingmagpie.org. It's those two words together, thievingmagpie.org. My author's site is mishokrian.com. But you can find that through the Thieving Magpie as well.
Okay,
and the name of the book is The American Playground. Yeah.
Yep, An American Playground. Just for curiosity, and if you don't know off the top of your head, totally cool. But do you keep track of like how many magazines are actually distributed and what your publication level is at this point in time?
Oh, well, like I said, the Thieving Magpie magazine is still a digital magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there is a way, because I just revamped the site last year. So I'm sure there's a way to find out how many clicks and how many readers I have. But because I have up until now it's not a paid subscription model, so anybody has access to it at all times. I really have no way of knowing who's following it and who's not following it. I mean, we're on social media. We're on Instagram and Blue Sky and Facebook and all those places. And there's followers in all of those places. But the site itself, it gets a lot of clicks. I can't tell, if they're clicking out of curiosity or if they're actually reading. But I base it mostly on the submissions I get, because those grow every season. So I know that it's reaching people and it's getting farther out.
Okay, well, that's good. At least you got indications of growth, and that's what everyone would want.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Stick around after we end recording. I have some other things I want to kind of chat with you about. But thank you for joining us on The Molten Truth. And please be sure to check out thievingmagpie.org as well as mishokrian.com.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.